Okay, welcome back everyone to 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors, the first of the Zero Escape series. Believe in order to get the coffin ending, we need to go through door 1. My choice is door 1. Santa was unconvinced. Hey, wait a minute there. You cheating? Cheating? I'm asking if you changed your number after you heard what doors we wanted. How could I do that? I wrote it down on the paper earlier. Let me see that. Junpei shrugged and handed it to him. Santa examined it furiously. The others peered at it as well. As they did, Junpei quickly slipped the piece of paper he'd been hiding into his pocket. Although he never knew it now, Santa had been justified in his suspicions. Junpei had switched papers. He had prepared 3 pieces of paper for doors 1, 2, and 6, and put the paper with door 6 on it into the pot. He put a small mark on it so that he would know which one was his. He put the paper that said door 1 in his left hand and the paper that read door 2 in his right. When the drawing began, he saw to it that he drew last. The rest was easy. If he wanted to go into door 1, he'd use his left hand, and his right hand if he wanted door 2. Of course, if he wanted door 6, that would be simple. All he'd need to do was switch nothing, and say 6 had been what he wanted all along. Well, what does it say? He fought the urge to smirk. You got lucky. Santa snorted and tossed the paper aside, frustrated. Very well. We've decided who will go through door 1. It will be Clover, Junpei, and myself. 1 plus 4 plus 5 equals 10. 1 plus 0 equals 1. Our only problem is the 2 remaining teams. Jun and I want door 6. Lotus and I want door 2. That's not good. We can't open either of those doors with only 2 people. Fine. 7 will go through door 6. 3 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 equals 24. 2 plus 4 equals 6. Sure thing. I didn't really want to go through door 2 anyway. Besides, if we've got a younger girl with us, it'll lower the average age. Right, Jun? Jun was at a loss for words. What the fuck does that mean? Does that have to do with anything? Lotus was not. That pig. You just wait and see. Her eyes were the eyes of a woman prepared to kill. A shiver ran down Junpei's spine. Even after they separated at the staircase, Lotus was still muttering angrily to herself. Circumstances dictated that Junpei and Jun would have to part ways again, but this time it didn't sting quite so much. After all, he knew he would see her again. Till we find that 9 door, 0 ain't gonna split us up. We might get separated for a little while, but we'll see each other again. Otherwise, we can't open door 9. That's how the nonary game works. Junpei, Ace, and Clover headed toward A deck. They took out the earth key and opened the door to the left. It opened and they walked through. It was just as Santa and Lotus had said. At the end of the hallway sat a door with a large red 1 upon it. A numbered door. To the left of it, bolted to the wall, was the red. Ace went first and waved his wrist over the scanner panel. Junpei was next. Finally, listlessly, Clover lifted her arm. She leaned toward the scanner panel. The third asterisk clicked to life, shining brightly. Ace took hold of the lever. He took a deep breath and turned to Junpei and Clover. Are you ready? Shall I pull it? Yeah, any time. Clover said nothing. She nodded, little more than a lethargic twitch of the head. Very well then, let's go. 3, 2, 1. The door opened. They stumbled into the room. Frantically, Junpei scanned the room. His eye stopped on the device that would determine whether they lived or died. There it is, over there. Next to the door they'd come through was the dead. As one, they ran to it. They put their hands over it as if they were fighting for it. It stopped. Yes, it did. Junpei could feel his heart pounding against the inside of his ribs. Ace and Clover were breathing hard and fast. It was the third time they'd been through the process, but they had yet to grow accustomed to it. Not that Junpei wanted to. He planned to finish the game before he got a chance to let imminent death become commonplace. Junpei looked around again, this time more slowly. There was another door, different from the one they'd entered through. He took hold of the knob and easily, gently pulled it open. So, this is the wheelhouse. He closed the door again and turned to Ace and Clover. Not Alice. Ace, you investigate the wheelhouse door next. The wheelhouse next door. Very well. Clover, you're in charge of this room. Say something.
Okay, I will.
All right then, let's get started. After further investigation, they realized that the other room was not, in fact, the wheelhouse, but a chart room. Inside of the desk was an apparently broken pocket watch. As Junpei was examining it, he heard Ace's voice behind him. Oh, pocket watch. Might I take a look at it? Junpei shrugged and handed him the pocket watch. Hey man, what are you doing over in this room? Oh, I just thought I'd come check up on the two of you. Is there a problem? Well, not a problem, but... It was a lie. All Junpei wanted was to get rid of Ace. He'd sent Ace to the wheelhouse at the beginning for a reason. There's something he meant to ask Clover, and he meant to ask her in private. There's something he wanted to ask Clover, and he didn't want anyone else to hear him ask it. Don't have to repeat. That's what the last paragraph said. Ugh. He also knew that Clover would likely remain silent if there were anyone else around when he asked. That was why he was so desperate to send Ace back to the wheelhouse. Ace opened his mouth, then took another look at Junpei and shut it again. A small smirk appeared on his face. I see. Of course. He looked Junpei over, then glanced at Clover. I apologize for the intrusion. Well, best of luck. Ace gave Junpei a knowing pat on the shoulder and left. Junpei let out a sigh and brushed a few drops of sweat from his forehead. He turned and found himself looking straight into Clover's eyes. She'd heard what Ace had said. She regarded Junpei with caution.
What was that about?
She was clearly suspicious, and with good reason. Junpei's eyes widened, and he held up his hands in a gesture of innocence. Oh, no, it's not like that.
What's it like then?
I just wanted to hear the rest of that story. I didn't get a chance to ask you about it until now.
What story?
About the experiment, remember? The one you started to tell me in the operating room? You said something about an experiment that happened here 9 years ago. Clover bit her lip. She stared down at the floor for several long moments, and when she spoke, it was barely audible.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to talk about that right now. I'm just not in the mood, okay? You understand, right? I keep thinking about my brother. I can't stop. I mean, who would do something like that to my brother? I can't forgive them. I'm not going to let them get away with it. They're going to pay for it, I promise. So...
Her shoulders were shaking. Drops of blood had sprung up on her lips where she was biting them.
Junpei, who do you think did it?
Her voice was cold and scarcely above a whisper. Junpei gulped. Well, if what Seven said was right, then there would have to be at least 2 of them. You need at least 3 people to open the numbered doors. And if you subtract Snake, that means there are at least 2 other people.
You're right. So what does that mean?
Well, if we just look at the bracelet numbers, we should be able to figure it out. Who could have opened door 3 with Snake? Well, really, who and who, or who and who?
You mean it could have been 4 people?
Well, technically it's possible.
I don't know. That doesn't seem very likely.
Why?
I'll tell you later. Why don't we just assume it was only 2 other people for now?
Okay, got it. Let's do that then.
Then who do you think it could be?
Junpei crossed his arms and thought. Snake's bracelet number was 2. Which 2 bracelet numbers added to 2 would give a digital root of 3? 2 plus 3 plus 7 is 12. 1 plus 2 equals 3. Could it be... Were Santa and Seven the killers?
What's wrong?
Clover looked at Junpei, and he looked back at her. There was no point in hiding it. He told her his conclusions.
That's what I thought.
She looked less surprised than he'd expected.
Santa and Seven. If it was 2 people, then that's the only combination that works.
Hey, wait a minute there. Don't you think it's a little too early to be jumping to conclusions? Well, all I said is that those 2 would have been able to open door 3 with your brother. There might be other possibilities.
Well, what other possibilities?
He didn't have an answer. He was ready to admit defeat when Clover spoke.
Are you saying you think that it was 3 or 4 people? I really don't think that's likely.
Why?
Can I borrow your pen and paper?
Clover put her hand out expectantly. Junpei pulled out his pen and pad of paper and handed them to her. She opened the notebook and wrote down several simple addition problems. Eventually, she had 8, which proved a digital root of 3. 2 plus 1 plus 3 plus 6 is 12. 2 plus 1 plus 4 plus 5 equals 12. 2 plus 4 plus 7 plus 8 is 21. 2 plus 5 plus 6 plus 8 is 21. 2 plus 1 plus 3 plus 7 plus 8 is 21. 2 plus 1 plus 4 plus 6 plus 8 equals 21. 2 plus 1 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 equals 21. 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 7 is 21. Wow. What's this?
These are the combinations for 3 or 4 people. These 8 combinations are the only possible ones.
I see.
Junpei?
Yeah?
I can trust you, right?
Of course. Why would you need to ask that?
Really?
Yeah.
So then I should get rid of B, D, G, and H, right?
Of course, just cross them out. And you should take off yours too, the ones with 4.
So what does that leave?
A and E. Two plus 1 plus 3 plus 6 equals 12. 2 plus 1 plus 3 plus 7 plus 8 is 21. Seems like Santa had to have been involved somehow. Wait, it can't be A.
Why not?
Because June's in that one. There's no way in hell she'd do something like that.
Are you sure?
I'd bet my life on it.
Okay then I can cross off A too, right?
Yeah.
Well, what have we got left?
E. 2 plus 1 plus 3 plus 7 plus 8 is 21.
Do you know what this means?
Everyone besides me, you, and June would be working together.
Do you think that's likely? If there were 4 people working together, they wouldn't be very cautious. I don't think they'd try that hard to hide what they were doing if they outnumbered us, right?
Well, you do have a point.
And besides, if Ace and Seven are working together, they could have easily gotten rid of me. When I went to the shower room with them, but they didn't. They didn't even try anything. If they were the killers, why wouldn't they?
Her voice was calm, but Junpei had only to look her in the eye to know it was a forced calm. There were tears forming at the corners of her eyes, and she was blinking fiercely to keep them back. Perhaps by attempting an objective analysis of who might have killed her brother, she had been able to distance herself from the harsh reality of his death. The more she struggled to act unconcerned, the more Junpei felt his heart tighten. Okay, yeah, well, that does make sense. It seems pretty unlikely that it was as many as 3 or 4 people.
Yeah.
Then that means there's a good chance it was Santa and Seven.
That's how it looks.
But why would they do it? There was a moment of silence.
I think I know.
What is it? He laid his hand gently on her shoulder. He was close, so close to the answer. When Ace chose the worst possible moment to return, he raised a knowing eyebrow and then spoke. Have I interrupted something? What do you want? There was something I wanted to speak with you about, Junpei. Could you come with me for a moment? He turned on his heel and walked back toward the wheelhouse. Junpei looked over at Clover. He gave her a short nod, hoped that she would be willing to talk to him again later, and followed Ace. What did you want to talk about? Ace looked at Junpei and smiled. Perhaps more of a smirk than a smile. There was something I wanted to check. Yeah? What's that? If you'll excuse me. With no warning, Ace slipped his hand into the pocket of Junpei's vest. Hey, what the hell are you doing? He reached for Ace's arm, but it was already too late. In the older man's hand were the pieces of paper Junpei had balled up and hidden in his pocket. Just as I thought. You switched them, didn't you, when we voted? Oh well, I can't say that I care. I managed to get through the numbered door I wanted, despite your mischief. Why did you... Oh, simply curiosity. I hope you won't think ill of me for it. Ace smiled, gave Junpei a friendly pat on the shoulder, and then turned on his heel and left. It was a small defeat, but it was a defeat. Junpei had lost the upper hand, and he knew it. He could feel his stomach begin to tense. The exit was locked, just as all the other doors had been. There was a small depression in the middle of the door that looked as if it was meant to have something inserted into it. Judging by the shape of the depression, there was only one thing that would fit: the pocket watch. Junpei moved the hands to the correct positions and pressed the watch into the depression. As he stepped back, they heard the sound of something unlocked, and the door opened. Beyond was a narrow rectangular hole. On their left was a wooden door. Junpei pushed it open and stepped into the room beyond. It was full of all manner of turn-of-the-century electronic equipment. Most of them were things they'd never seen before. They had no idea what they might have been for, let alone how to operate them. One smaller machine had a metal bar that ended in a circular handle. Ace seemed to recognize it. Ah, yes, a telegraph key. These were used to transmit Morse code a long time ago. He turned and slowly took in the room. This must be the communication office. Across the room from the door they'd entered through was another door. A metal plaque was nailed to it. It read, Captain's Quarters. Or, no. How do you flub that up? Captain's Cabin. The Captain's Quarters. Or cabin. I don't know. English? That's what it says. No, it doesn't. God, that's terrible. That's just awful. Did no one, just check? Then do you think... I am Zero, the captain of this ship. Ace swallowed. Junpei could feel his hands begin to sweat. Only Clover seemed unaffected. Well, we won't know if we don't open it. She walked up to the door and put her hand on the knob. It opened easily, and without so much as a pause, she walked in. Junpei and Ace followed. The first thing they saw was a man on the floor, covered in blood. Junpei felt his body seize up. His mouth went dry, and he felt very cold. The blood in his veins slowed to a crawl, and his heart tightened like a fist. This was the third time he'd seen the horror of death laid out before him. He didn't think it was something he could stand to see much more of. Still, he had begun to accept that whatever it was that he saw, whatever happened to him, was beyond his control, and whatever force controlled him was driven by determination that he could not hope to match. A sense of helplessness, of desperation washed over him. It left behind a feeling of utter emptiness that wormed its way through his body like acid. Then he realized they had yet to check the man's pulse. Perhaps he was still alive. Fueled by that spark of hope, Junpei ran to the man's body, and his heart fell. His fingers on the man's neck felt no pulse. His pupils had dilated, and he wasn't breathing. Junpei lifted the man's already stiff body. There was a deep red wound on his chest. Junpei did not have to wonder long at what could have made such a wound. For lying next to the corpse was an axe. The entire blade of it was drenched in bright red blood. From the shape of the man's wound, there could be no doubt that it had been made by the axe. Junpei looked at the body again. A lake of blood stretched out around it. It was wearing the clothes of a ship's captain, although they were stained with blood. A captain. Did that mean that this man was Zero? On his left hand was a bracelet. The number on the bracelet was 0. It was only then that Junpei noticed the stench of blood that filled the room. He couldn't help but laugh. There was nothing else for him to say. It was too simple, too obvious, too straightforward. If there hadn't been a dead man on the floor, Junpei might have thought it a joke. The search did not go as well as he had hoped. Not because the puzzles were especially difficult. His trouble had a good deal more to do with the dead body lying in the corner. Junpei found it very difficult to maintain his composure when every glance ran the risk of landing on a corpse. He felt utterly drained, as if with even the smallest movements, what little of his soul remained was being squeezed out. Still, he couldn't abandon his search. A few more minutes of excruciating effort later, he finally located a file. He'd found it sitting in a drawer in the communications office. It was red. The cover read, All ice. All ice. Alice. Did that mean? Junpei couldn't hold back. He had to know it was in that file. Each page was covered with strange characters. They looked like tiny drawings of birds, snakes, insects, horned animals, wings, and even kneeling humans. There were many pages in the file, and each was full of these strange symbols. What the hell is this? He didn't realize he'd spoken out loud until Ace looked over at him. They are hieroglyphs, a form of writing used in ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt? That's right. Can you read them? Of course. I can't. What would make you think I could? What the hell? Junpei flipped through a few more pages. It wasn't just 1 or 2 pages that were covered in the strange symbols. Every single page was covered in them. Trying to read them was pointless. Junpei wasn't going to waste any more time with them. He made to close the file, and something fell out. He bent down and picked it up. A keycard. There was a symbol on it that reminded Junpei of the symbols for the Saturn and Mercury keycards. This one, however, had a dot in the center of the male symbol. Uranus. That's the Uranus symbol. In addition to the Uranus symbol, there were 3 words engraved on the card as well. On the lower right, it said Bottom Deck Library. This must be a key to the library on the bottom deck. So it would seem. The bottom deck, the library. Junpei remembered something he'd heard from Seven when they'd been in the chemical closet. Alice sleeps in a small chamber past the forest of knowledge, beneath the navel of the gigantic. Did beneath the navel mean the bottom deck? Did forest of knowledge mean the library? If it did, then was Alice in a room somewhere beyond the library? What's wrong? Junpei blinked. Only then did he notice Ace looking at him, curiosity and concern written across his face in equal parts. There was no reason for Junpei to hide his thoughts. He began to explain his theory to Ace. Then he stopped. It wouldn't make any sense if Ace didn't know who Alice was supposed to be. So he told Ace everything Jun had told him. About the Egyptian priestess. About Ice 9. And finally, about the woman who wouldn't melt who had been recovered from the Titanic disaster. He told him about how she had been called All Ice, which had eventually turned to Alice, and how she had been purchased by an English millionaire who called himself Lord Gordain, and how Gordain had hid Alice somewhere on the ship. And you think that he hid her in a small room beyond the library on the bottom deck. Yeah, well, I guess so. I see. Ace stared off into the distance, his hand slowly and absent-mindedly stroking his beard. After a few moments, his hand stopped. He turned slowly to look at Junpei, and his brows drew together. Junpei, have you ever heard of the term CAS? CAS? It stands for Cells Alive System. It's an advanced technology for freezing and preserving organic matter. Put simply, it is a technique that allows one to freeze things without the formation of ice crystals. Normally, if you freeze something fresh, water within its cells expands as it crystallizes, damaging the cell membrane. CAS, however, works differently. The object to be frozen is supercooled using magnetic fields and then frozen instantly and uniformly, giving ice crystals no time to form. It was originally developed for the preservation of food, as an alternative to the normal freezing process. Now, however, there are rumors that it can be used for other things. What do you mean, other things? Well, there are obvious medical uses, but perhaps also space travel. Space travel? Are you serious? Surely you've heard of suspended animation. Cryogenic freezing. It's a fairly common idea in science fiction books and films. People are sometimes frozen for especially lengthy journeys through space. That was when Junpei understood what Ace was suggesting. Whoa, wait a minute there. Are you saying that Alice was frozen using that CAS thing? Well, I'm sure the possibility is quite low, but it is a possibility. If this special ice you call Ice 9 does exist, and if CAS were used to freeze her into that sort of ice instantaneously, you think she could still be alive? Well, I can't say for sure, of course. I'm only talking about possibilities. The melting point for Ice 9 is 96 degrees, right? If she were put somewhere where she could reach that temperature... That's nuts! Are you really saying she could have defrosted and started walking about? You're quite right, it does sound unbelievable. But if she had, then we would have an explanation for the man we found dead on the floor. You mean the guy dressed like a captain? Yes. He was dead when we found him early. Clearly he was murdered. But if he was murdered, then by who? It couldn't have been one of us. That would be impossible. In order to enter the captain's quarters, one must first open door 1. That door that requires the Earth key prevented us from accessing door 1. Who was it that opened that door? Santa and Lotus. Right. Clearly, the two of them could not have opened door 1, or any other door for that matter. Who else, then, could have done so? Junpei thought for a second. No, nobody. Except him. After Santa and Lotus had used the Earth key, they turned back and met up with Junpei and June, who had just returned from E-Deck. The 4 of them then proceeded to return to the large hospital room to reunite with Ace, Seven, and Clover. When Junpei and his team had gone into the shower room, Ace, Seven, and Clover had been left in the large hospital room, but they would have been unable to open door 1. Perhaps when Junpei and June had taken the elevator to door 2 then? No, that would have been impossible. They had been gone only 5 minutes. No human being could have run to the captain's quarters, killed the man in there, and run back in 5 minutes. It would be impossible for any of us to be the murderer. That being the case, who could have killed him? Wouldn't it make sense if his killer was someone who had been in the ship for some time? A person like that would know the ship well. They would know the locations of all the hidden passages and secret doors. The numbered doors would mean nothing to someone like that. It would be a simple thing for them to enter the captain's quarters. Or captain's cabin, what have you. Then you're saying the killer was Alice? It was Junpei's turn to raise an eyebrow. Ace drew his thumb across his lips thoughtfully. Well, this is all only one possible theory. All ice, Alice. Was Alice indeed somewhere on the ship with them? Junpei had only one clue. The key card in his hand. It would, he hoped, grant him access to the forest of knowledge. But beyond that, what waited for him beyond the forest of knowledge? Whatever might be there, however, would have to wait. At the moment, there was nothing Junpei could do. He gripped the key card tighter and shoved it deep into his pocket. Junpei made his way to the captain's quarters. He stepped inside to find Clover staring silently down at the corpse. What do you think? He turned to Clover, who was standing next to him. Her voice was almost too low to hear. Nothing. It seemed that she cared about little. Of course, Junpei could hardly blame her. Given the strain she was surely under, Junpei was somewhat surprised she had responded at all. Still, he had to ask. He gestured toward the corpse. Do you think this is the real Zero? Clover shook her head weakly. There's no way that's him. Did I tell you already? Zero is one of us. Yeah, right. Well, even if he wasn't one of us, there's no way that man could be Zero. Don't you get it? He's got a captain's uniform, and the number 0 on his bracelet. It's too obvious. Look, this is 0 right here. This dead body is 0. Doesn't that seem kind of funny to you? You're right. Only an idiot wouldn't see through something like that. No, that's not the point. I'm not trying to make fun of them for thinking a trick like this would work. I'm sure they didn't think it would work, which makes me wonder, why did they do it? I think this is a challenge from the person who's really behind all of this. He's making fun of us. Don't you get it? He's got a captain's uniform with the number 0 on his bracelet. They'd never have put a bracelet on him. Walking about with a 0 bracelet would be like hanging a sign around your neck that said, I did it. Anyone with a brain would be able to see that this guy is supposed to look like everything 0 is supposed to be. Just like we did. The killer must have known we wouldn't think he was 0 and put the bracelet on him anyway. Do you know why? Why? Like I said, he's mocking us. Too bad, suckers. This isn't 0. It's the same bad joke a lot of criminals like to play. They'll just sit back and watch people run in circles. Look, here I am. What's wrong, guys? Come on, catch me if you can. That's really twisted, but it almost seems kind of childish. Yeah, you're right. It's really childish. It's like it's just a game to whoever this person is. That's what seems funny to me. Junpei bent down next to the corpse. All right, let's get back to the point. Who killed this man?
I don't know.
And what's this guy's deal? Who is he?
How would I know that? If I knew anything, I would have told you.
You have no idea who he is?
Why would I?
Junpei sat back on his haunches and thought. We should check and see if he's got anything on him that might tell us who he is. Give me a hand here, Clover.
What?
We've got to flip him over. How else are we going to search his pockets? Clover didn't move. Junpei had no choice but to move the body on his own. He grabbed hold of an area not completely covered in blood and shoved. It took a moment, but eventually Junpei felt the man's bulk begin to shift. But just as it did, something fell from the man's left wrist. The bracelet with 0 on the face. Lastly, let us discuss how to remove the bracelets. There are only 2 ways to do so. 1, you escape from this ship. 2, your heart rate reaches 0. In other words, once the bracelet is taken outside the confines of the ship, or detects that its wearer's heartbeat has fallen to 0, it will shut down automatically. Junpei stared at the bracelet. This man, he's dead, isn't he?
Huh?
No, it's just, I guess I didn't really think about it until right now. If his bracelet's off, that means he's dead.
Well, it's pretty obvious that he's dead. You don't really need to look at his bracelet to figure out that he's dead.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It is pretty obvious. He looks a lot better than the other bodies we've seen, though, you know? I mean, if there wasn't all this blood, he'd almost look like he was still alive. I mean, I know it's kind of a messed up thing to say, but he kind of has it better, you know? God, shut up. Don't say that in front of her. Dying from a bomb going off inside you? I mean, that's just... Some of Snake's bones went right through his skin. Dude! Stop! Seriously? I think the explosion must have thrown him against a wall or something. There was a broken bone just sticking out of his left arm. Suddenly, Junpei realized what he was saying. It took you long enough. How could he have been so cruel? He clapped his hands over his mouth. But it was already too late. He turned to look at Clover. She was glaring at him furiously. I'm surprised she let him talk as long as he did.
What did you just say?
Her words sounded cold. He knew an apology could hardly atone for what he'd done, but he tried anyway. Oh man, I am so sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I really don't know what I was thinking. I mean...
No, that's not what I'm talking about. What did you say about his arm?
Arm?
Yes, his left arm. You said it, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I did, but... I mean, didn't you see it too?
Of course not. I could barely look at him.
Clover took a deep, quick breath.
Are you sure it was his left arm?
Junpei thought back. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
And he had a broken bone, right?
What the hell are you getting at here?
Just shut up and answer me!
She shoved her face closer to his. He could see the fire in her eyes. Junpei winced and swallowed. Yeah, he did. It was pretty bad, too. The bone was sticking out of the arm. No sooner were the words out of his mouth than Clover's expression changed. Suddenly she was crying. Junpei wasn't sure what to do.
Thank you.
It was close to the last thing he had expected to hear. Junpei had no idea what had just happened. He didn't think he'd done anything worthy of thanks, and he couldn't understand why she would have chosen that moment to begin crying. So he simply stood there, confused.
Thank you, Junpei.
She thanked him again, and then something even stranger happened. Clover threw herself into Junpei's arms. Hey, what's going on with you?
I'm sorry, it's just, I'm so happy.
Why?
The body in the shower room, it isn't his. It isn't my brother.
Huh?
It's not Snake.
Why on earth would you think that?
Because his left arm is...
Fake? It's a prosthetic? Is that it? She stopped herself.
I'm sorry. I really shouldn't be talking about this.
Junpei decided it would be prudent not to press her for any more information. If she did not wish to tell him, she certainly had a reason for doing so. Perhaps more importantly, however, if Clover was so certain, then she was likely right. That meant that the body in the shower room wasn't Snake. It wasn't much, but that knowledge lifted some of the weight from Junpei's heart.
He's still alive. I'm so happy.
Tears shone in her eyes. Those tears melted Junpei's heart. As she cried, she had pushed herself up against his chest like a child. Junpei put his arms around her and held her tight.
Junpei, you were right. No matter what happens, you can never lose hope. You have to remember what's most important, and that's to have faith and to have love. If you can remember all of those, that'll bring you good luck.
Clover reached into her pocket and pulled something out. It was a laminated bookmark with a 4-leaf clover.
I only made it here because you gave me this. I was suspicious of everybody and I was angry and miserable. But because I had this 4-leaf clover, because of what you said to me,
Junpei hadn't thought his words would have had such an effect on her. Her words were making him feel a little awkward.
Thank you so much, Junpei.
She looked up at him. He scratched his nose and pretended to notice something interesting somewhere else in the room. If you really want to thank somebody, you should be thanking Santa.
Santa? Why?
Well, he was the one who gave me that thing. And the words for each leaf? I got that from him, too. Then suddenly, Clover broke away from Junpei. Huh? He looked confused. He hadn't thought she'd react that poorly. Clover began to pace across the room. 6 steps to the left, 6 steps to the right, another 6 to the left, and then she stopped.
Did Santa really tell you those things?
Her eyes were serious, but not angry. Yeah, he did. Did I say something wrong?
Oh no, not at all. In fact, this could be really good news, I think.
You think?
Santa knew about the words and the clover. The only people who should know about that are the other subjects.
Subjects?
The other people who were in the experiment 9 years ago with my brother and me. But he's blind, and I was part of the Nevada test group. So neither of us would be able to recognize the faces of the people who were on this boat.
Whoa, time out! Junpei held up his hands. He took a deep breath and let it out. Let's just calm down for a second, okay? Start from the top. Don't start with the end and then jump to the middle. You gotta start at 1 and then move to 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. If you don't tell me stuff in the right order, I'm never going to be able to figure it out. Clover nodded. All right, let's start with this experiment. What happened on this boat 9 years ago?
Do you know about morphogenetic fields?
He did, and the realization sent chills down Junpei's spine. All right, how about this? Theory of the telepathic mechanism. Junpei recounted what Lotus had told him earlier. Clover nodded.
Telepathy, huh? Well, that's not really it, but I suppose it's similar.
So they were testing telepathy on this ship?
Yeah, I guess so.
So what exactly did they have you guys do?
The same thing that we're doing now. Exactly the same thing.
What?
The nonary game. 9 people were put on this boat, and 9 others were put in the building in Nevada. and the game started.
Junpei grabbed the sides of his head. Look, I'm sorry, but I don't get it. What do the nonary game and some telepathy experiment have to do with each other? Clover bit her lip. She blinked back sudden tears. What had happened to her in Nevada?
The ability to access a morphogenetic field is affected by a couple of things. The first is epiphany, and the other is danger. You know how sometimes when you're up against a really tough problem, and then the answer just kind of pops into your head? That's an epiphany. And what you learn from that, the epiphany, can be transmitted with telepathy. Then you add danger to that equation. Then it gets easier to transmit that information over telepathy.
So you're saying the nonary game was supposed to introduce that element of danger?
Yeah, but it couldn't be just any old danger. It had to be life and death. And someone did actually die. A girl.
Junpei felt the sudden grip of despair on his heart. Something deep and distant and powerful squeezed, and for a moment he felt very, very empty and alone.
She was on the boat with my brother. I was in Nevada, so I never met her, but I did hear her name. Her name was,
Let me guess, Alice. The sound of the door opening was like a gunshot. Junpei spun around. Oh, my apologies. I seem to have disturbed you. Ace. You two must have strong stomachs. I can't imagine how you could stay in this room for so long. Ace glanced down at the floor, at the corpse covered in blood. At any rate, Junpei, would you be so kind as to come and help me with something? I'm having a little trouble, and I could really use your assistance. Come on, it'll only take a moment. With that, he turned and walked back toward the communications office. Clover waited until he was out of sight, then spoke in a small, quiet voice.
I don't want Ace to hear us. We can talk about this later.
Huh? Hey, wait! Clover ignored him. From outside, Junpei could hear Ace calling. Junpei, what are you doing in there? Hurry up! Ah! Grumbling to himself, Junpei stomped off toward the communications office. They stepped out of the captain's quarters and into another hallway. The hallway stretched out in front of Junpei for a bit before turning left like a great backward L. Junpei rounded the corner and took off down the straightaway. At the end of the hallway was a door. He made straight for it. He was nearly halfway to it when he noticed a piece of paper in the middle of the floor. What was a piece of paper doing in the middle of the hallway? Junpei skidded to a halt. He dropped down to his hands and knees and quickly tore the paper off of the floor. Now that he had a chance to examine it more closely, it was clear that it was a map. More specifically, a map of the ship's interior for the A deck. What's wrong? Ace, slightly slower by virtue of his advanced age, had finally caught up to Junpei. Junpei said nothing, simply showed Ace what he had found. He looked at it long enough to determine what it was and nodded. I see. With that, he began running again past Junpei. Junpei shoved the map into his pocket and got up to follow Ace, but something stopped him. Hey, where's Clover? He turned around. Clover was nowhere to be seen. Damn it, what the hell is she up to? Oh, come on. Not this. Swipe. There we go. Junpei muttered angrily under his breath and took off back the way he'd come. As he stomped around the corner, he saw her. She was standing in front of the door to the captain's quarters, her hand on the doorknob. As Junpei watched, she closed it gently and quietly. What the hell are you doing?
Nothing.
What do you mean, nothing? Clover had unconsciously put her hands over the pockets of her jacket as if trying to hide something. What the hell is that?
What?
You've got something in your pocket. What is it?
Oh, this? This is a note.
A note? Yeah, I found it in the pocket of the guy with the captain's clothes. It said something about the darkness of the sinister hand or something. What the hell? Let me see it. But Junpei wasn't going to get to see it. From the other end of the hall, he heard Ace's voice. Hey, Junpei, Clover, what are you two doing? Hurry up. Clover shrugged. I'll show it to you later, all right? Come on, we gotta hurry. Before Junpei could protest, she was gone. Around the corner, and off down the long stem of the L. A note? A note. Junpei was curious, but there was something else that bothered him. Her pocket had been bulging far more than it would from just a note. Junpei did his best to convince himself that it would make sense later and ran after Clover.